Hi guys, welcome back to another day of Britmas. Today I'm talking about my least favorite reads of 2020. Welcome to 25 Days of Britmas. Let's get on with the video. So I need to obviously state some, important things to consider. One, these are just based off of the books that I read in the year 2020. This is by far my lowest reading year in a while, which we all know why. These involve books that were published in 2020 and not. These are my opinions. So if you do not agree with me, that's completely fine. If you want to go ahead and thumbs down this video, that's completely fine. But these are just books that I read this year that did not hit home the way that I wanted them to. So I have to start with the book that I DNF'd this year, and that is Daughters of Nari, which I know to some people might be very shocking because this was a book that we saw all over Bookstagram, all over BookTube. It was bragged about being this amazing book. And the premise of the story is that it's two twin girls who were separated at birth who don't know that each other exists, and they're actually the daughter of a god. And there's like this conspiracy situation that happens with one of the girls, and then the other girl is dealing with another situation in the same kingdom, and somehow they come together. I never actually got to that part of the book where they come together because I was just so bored. I was 3/4 of the way the book through. I could technically finish the book just to say that I finished the book, but I was completely uninterested. The book is actually still on my shelf right now because it's a pretty cover. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me, but I felt like the plot was dry. It's a book about them coming together and they didn't come together. I just wasn't a fan. I wanted that book to be better. I just felt like I didn't get my money's worth, and it was boring. And I know some people say like, oh, you shouldn't talk bad about books by POC, but in my personal opinion, the only way that we're going to be equal in the publishing world is if we treat all the books the same. So yes, this book was written by a Black woman. Yes, this book is starring specifically Black women. Yes, the cover is absolutely stunning, but it was not a good read for me. That's just what it is. Another disappointing read for me this year was Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. Y'all know that first book really touched me. And I've done a lot of thinking about why I loved the first book, but the second book did not hit the same. It's probably because the first book is literally Avatar: The Last Airbender in Nigeria. And then the second book, she put everybody on a slave ship. Like, that's pretty much the way that I can explain it. I felt as if we had reached a point with the characters where there was supposed to be a lot of character development and that the story was going to make sense, but it was a couple of things in the story that just did not make sense. Like, I wanted this book to be so good, but it ended up on the other side of the list. Instead of the good side, it ended up on the bad side. Like, these, I'm not saying these in any particular order. It's just that's the list. Like, I wanted CVV to be amazing, but CVV was subpar. So I'm hoping that the next book does something better. I do want to know how they got off the slave ship, but I heard rumors that it's more than just a trilogy, and I don't know if I want to devote that kind of time to this book just because I have found Black fantasy books that are better right now. What's absolutely crazy to me is I've read a lot of Black books this year. Like, I really set out to read more diversely this year. And a lot of the books that I read that I actually had time to sit down and read were the Black books. So my list is like, I'm looking at my thing right here and I'm like, dang, my list is a lot of black. Like a lot of black. Like the top reads are also very black. So it's just really funny how this is adding up. But another one on my list is the graphic novel, The Black Mage. You guys saw me rant about this a couple months ago where I just wanted it to be more than something about the KKK. Like I wanted a magical world where we existed, and like the way that it looked, I didn't know that we were about to deep dive into like Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman and their ghosts, and that being the only reason why people got into school. I didn't like it. I'm sure somebody else might have enjoyed it, but I was not a fan of The Black Mage. Another disappointing read this year is Mirror Mirror. It is one of the Disney retellings where it's like, what if? So this one was, what if the evil queen poisoned the prince rather than Snow White? And when I tell you, this was very lackluster, and I think it's also because I read the Ravensfire retelling of Snow White, where the same thing basically happened, and I don't know which one came out first, but I just feel like we could have done a little bit more with the Snow White story. I feel like the other Twisted Tales have done a lot in their stories where like the core was still there, but there was something different, you know? So this one, I just read it because it was fluff. But in terms of the books that I read this year, it was on the lower end of my excitement. So the last one on my list of my least favorite reads of 2020 is A River of Royal Blood. Yes, another Black girl magic book that was heavily pushed. And I actually finished this book. So the thing that I didn't really like was there was no real explanation of the magic. The main character had magic that I was very interested in, and I felt as if I didn't get to like there was no real moment for us to really understand the magic system. It's supposed to be this situation where she was eventually going to have to fight her sister to determine which one of them was going to be the ruler of the kingdom, because that's just what happened in their queendom, which again sounds really interesting, but I felt like this story made it fall flat. I don't know. It could have fallen into the trap of being the first book in a series where they just needed to like throw it all together to get you there. That's also very possible. But the way that the story ended, I was like, wait, how do we get here? What happened? Like, I'm not saying that I'm not interested in reading the second book. I am interested. I'm just wondering if it's going to be worth my time. But it's a book that I am considering getting from the library at least. Because this book, the first book I got from an owl crate. So I will probably get the library book. I do have a tendency to complete series that I'm not 100% invested in. So that's also very possible that I might end up doing this. But as far as for me, reading this book did not give me the joy that I wanted it to give, hence why it is on the least list. So yeah, those were the least favorite books of this year. Also, I should remind you guys, I think I've only read, let me check. Should also just remind you guys that I actually only read 38 books this year. That's not counting the books that I'm currently reading right now, but to put that in perspective, last year I read, I think 80 something or 90 something. I had full intentions of shattering that goal this year. So my pool of book options is very low this year. So yeah, my question to you guys is, what is a book that did not hit right for you? So for you, it was a least favorite, but to other people, it might not have been. Leave your comments down below. And until tomorrow, guys, bye.